YouTube. Hey, Twitch. Hope you guys are doing well today. Anyway, so here's what's up. Today we are exploring Seth Sandler verse movies to an extent. I'm not going to pretend I remember all the movie titles off the top of my head, but I kept thinking about this funny pattern for like months now. Not regularly, like every day, but enough to pout. Basically, there's a funny pattern with trauma that happens in public. Now, first of all, we're going to start with the basis for why this happens. Now, if you guys might remember, from me being a cringe street fighter back in the day, when basically I would be very stressed out after a fight to the point that I would be very impulsive and cringe, like on like a retard level. Now, the reason this happens is like because basically I wasn't used to stressful situations such as a fist fight and trying to talk afterwards. Anyway. Now, it turns out this is a pattern with a lot of people in humanity, and it gets funny with us Seth Sandler verse lore. That's why we're exploring it. Basically, with movies that are very popular to Hollywood, for America at least, such as Seth Rogen movies or Adam Sandler movies, there are trauma patterns where basically they will start out with a real argument, and then once they get into their fist fight and start trying to argue again, instead of being like based anime people who can like stay on topic, they will break down a bit hard and soft and do movie quotes that barely relate to the situation. Literally, they become movie quoters. Everyone becomes movie quoters when they're traumatized and still want to argue. And now we will vibe with the patterns in my head about like what all the things are. First of all, we'll do my favorite pattern, which is father and son drama. Father and son drama comes up in a lot of Seth Rogen movies. And barely with Sandler. The only movie I know that comes up with Sandler off the top of my head is Big Daddy or whatever, and is like maybe like a fucking daycare movie if that's him. That might be just something he was involved in. He might not have been in it too hard. But with Seth Rogen, it's basically with Seth Rogen, it's actually a bit spread out. He's like a lot of the times just like involved in the project as like a writer or producer. So really, it's like with him. These are just movies that are like a Seth Rogen-esque script. You might see stuff like it's like the most big example off the top of my head is like something like American Pie, or Vince Vaughn's Wedding Crashers. Like the movies like that count as part of the Seth Sandler verse of trauma. Things that get quoted when people get traumatized and argue about it in public still. Now let's see, off the top of my head, where am I gonna go with this? Like this is like, I wanted to talk about this. This is gonna be a tough topic because like I barely remember movie titles. Okay, we're just going to try and go with, like, basic shit. With Seth Rogen movies, there's a father-son pattern about, like, typical American trauma between father and son, which are in the usual patterns of freaking, I wanted to fuck your girlfriend, or I was like, I wanted to fuck your daughter, because sometimes it's, like, boyfriend and father, and that still works enough. Alright. It's often just a lot of father-son drama with Seth Rogen whenever they do a Seth Rogen movie quote. With Adam Sandler, the pattern, if I remember right, is often about like dealing with a bad boss or like being mad about golf. Just, like, I'm sorry I don't remember the quotes, guys. I thought low-key I might have done this stream before, but with all the research, we'd have to watch a lot of movies to do all the research again. And fucking like, it's so many movies with Seth Rogen alone to catch up on. Okay, there's a Seth Rogen movie I just thought that comes up in patterns. It's about the apocalypse. Basically, it's about survivor situations where you're in an apocalyptic situation. They'll do movie quotes from that where they're talking about being a cannibal and stuff. What else? I just remembered something. Maybe this is real, maybe it's not. So basically, when they want to talk about drugs, the quote they often do is a bit mixed up, but they'll often say what I said in my recent liberal video of like, why can't I smoke a beer and drink a blunt? And stuff like that. Because Seth Rogen movies always had the drug addict vibe. Like, I just want to be a drug addict, Dad. What the fuck? What else? Oh god, it's so hard to do this off the top of my head. I knew I was going to regret doing this, but I was still obsessed with at least discussing the general patterns. We already at the point I discussed enough to satisfy my lame self, because I was saying, like, just do 10 minutes at least. You don't commit too hard. Just, like, upload a basic thing so people can I don't know, find it for you and prove you right, or just like do the research yourself one day. Which I might when I get Wi-Fi back at my current place I'm staying at, because the Wi-Fi is off, and I have to go to places like this to do Wi-Fi stuff. Which honestly I don't mind. It's a nice aesthetic, better than sitting in that shed. Anyway, though, let's see what other things. Dude, where's my car is popping up in my head. Where's that? What's that going with? It's fucking. Okay, it might just be a crime trauma pattern. People are just like, dude, where's my car? Whenever they get robbed and they're traumatized. It's just their favorite trauma quote for when they get robbed. They just say, dude, where's my car? I just keep seeing them dramatically, slowly trying to hit a cigarette, which is sometimes invisible, but being like, dude, where's my car? What else? What else? I don't know, Mad Men deserves a mention. When they try to defend smoking, they'll do Mad Men quotes. Some of the people have yelled at the secretary in that movie about bringing in a bad folder information when they lose a drug addict argument or traumatized. They've at least done his quotes when he hates the secretary. What else? Oh god, this one's so weak. I should have done research before this, but I just want to talk about the general pattern at least. Is there any other general patterns we're talking about? Pink Floyd's The Wall causes arguments about the education system, which you just imagine makes sense because people will just like, I'm not even sure it's a trauma pattern to an extent. Some people do it on purpose, but sometimes they just like, okay, this is actually a real thing where like sometimes like meme battles happen where just like sometimes they're like fucking, sometimes it feels like they're traumatized, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just yelling movie titles and stuff at each other to win arguments. And people will say The Wall from Pink Floyd when they're mad about the education system. Which, if you guys know, it's mainly because of that song that's like, I don't remember the name of the song, but I remember the quote. It's like, we don't need no education. Teach us. Leave us the hell alone. It's probably because they get abused in school. Alright. Is there anything else we're talking about? I'm so running out of ideas. The Wallflower movie gets quoted when they want to defend rape, or when they're rapists, I think. I might be wrong. Or like when the woman wants to defend themselves for getting raped and just like not care about rape. I don't know. That's what's popping off about the Wallflower in my head. Fucking. I can't think of anything. Sandler just like, Sandler's dead feet gets quoted when fucking people think they've been poisoned. They'll just say they gave him dead feet when they think they've been poisoned. They'll sometimes just say I was Mr. Deeds when I was poisoned, when they was poisoned, not me. I don't know if I said that. Probably not. Is there any other patterns? I'm trying to think of. I should have done more research. Really, just writing a bunch of quotes to argument topics, which the main pattern is really father and son abuse. Grandma's Boy gets quoted about unemployment. I remember that. Grandma's Boy, the movie, gets quoted about unemployment because that movie's about trying to be based while still being unemployed. So they'll call themselves Grandma's Boy when they want to sound like they just like quote the meme about what they feel like. Alright. Is there anything else? Rob Snyder's fucking Wild Animals movie where he just like pretends to be a Tarzan character or whatever, I don't know. It's some stupid thing where he's like trying to be a crazy animal man in public. It gets quoted when you're trying to be a furry. Yeah. South Park gets quoted a lot for a lot of situations, which they'll do the talk for the moral of the story for a lot of things in South Park. Like there's one about not stealing, where they quote it really hard, or something like that. When it's like they'll quote South Park when they're trying to get pressured into buying stuff and they're traumatized by it because like a woman starts trying to be a slut to get something, and they just do the South Park meme, just like that scene where like women are like trying to hump a man to make him buy stuff in a store. He's like, whoa, I don't know. All right, anything else? Yeah, I can't think of anything. I should have done more research. This will be a quick one this time. As always, viewer, comment to make me do real research because I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I covered this before with a banned stream, so I was at least banned from YouTube. Probably just got deleted on Twitch because I thought it could sit there long enough. I'm tempted to redo the research. I thought it was a funny one, but even though we don't see it anymore on the internet because it was like the research when I remember started because there was a trend on the internet where it was happening a lot of movie quotes, and then like South Park did an episode where they just begged people to make sense of it, and I was just like, it's cope. It's cope on a psychological trauma level because they're like traumatized enough to where they can't talk straight, so they do movie quotes to convey themselves. That's basically the point of this. Those are like me trying to remember the patterns to extent what happened with the movies. I would have to do more research to remember all the fucking quotes. Anyway, that's it for now. You guys do your own research, I guess, by watching those movies to prove me right or wrong. Peace and love.